Get out of here. Out! Out!
Who are you yelling at?
The kids. This is my private rink.
Don't you hate that damn peasants?
Are you a rich man?
Yeah, but I pretend I like everyone else.
But you look like a peasant.
Yeah, so?
Do you remember offshore accounts?
The secret bank ones?
How many do you have?
Oh, Cayman and Swiss?
Bahamas.
Panama.
Luxembourg.
Monaco.
What's the best way to dodge taxes?
Shell companies, obviously.
What are the 2 seasons for the elites?
Davos and vacation.
Wow, you really are rich.
Yeah, but let me ask you, Mr. Central Banker, will the peasants ever get ahead?
They will always be peasants.
All right, offshore up.
Offshore up. Get out of here. Out!
We're watching as the world's unmade and call it all our golden age. Ooh, we are beyond control. Ooh, no vision can deliver us. We're golden calves until we're dust. Ooh, we're born upon a throne. Don't you know, ain't nobody safe from us. All you ghosts are better off where you come from. And I set out to tame the land with lion teeth and jaws of lambs. I'm drunk on the control. Until the fiction wastes away, until there's nothing left uncaged. And I'm on my own. Don't you know, ain't nobody safe from us. All you ghosts are better off where you come from.
Hey, we are back. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, sounds
We're all
great.
good. How's it going, Mikerowaveable?
Good weather. It's good to be with you. Hello, everyone on Rumble. This is great. Good to be back.
We are live on Rumble this time, not on YouTube.
Yeah,
So hopefully we'll hear from people that from there, and hopefully they'll start pulling through the comments if they're following live.
definitely.
This is a new move for us. We got pretty excellent views. We got enough to even get branded. So I think it's about time. Like everybody else, everyone's moving towards Rumble. And actually, like I was looking at the site today, and I started thinking, like, hey, wow, this is like YouTube now.
Yeah.
It looks like a real content site. And I should probably go there more often and start looking through the content they have there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Like, there's a lot of live shows happening all the time, and they've got sort of their live tab and everything where you can go through the different live broadcasts from gaming to like social commentary to political streams and Tim Pool and everybody and all
Yeah,
sorts
it's
of other
true.
people like I've never heard of before doing gaming stuff, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's up and coming, right? Like Rumble's an up and coming platform, it seems.
Well, I heard like how they now have like I think weekdays they have like this loop. I guess on the live thing where they'll feature like in the morning they'll feature like Steven Crowder, and then he'll like point or I what they call it raid or send his whole viewers over to the next show. And the next show is like Tim Pool, and then Tim Pool will send all those viewers over to like the Quartering, and like these are all podcasters that I've been watching, and it's like I should really go in there and all. I mean, like there'd be like a few people I'd kind of miss because some of the podcasters I've been watching for the Canadian content, keep up and up
Mhm.
on the Canadian politics and all that. Like on YouTube, I still watch. You got me into watching Jasmine Lane, so I'll
Oh,
watch her every morning.
yeah.
And then who are the other ones I follow? I follow the Pleb, right?
Yeah.
He's still on YouTube. I don't know if he's on Rumble yet. Elevate, those guys from Nova Scotia. Moose on the Loose, I think he's out west somewhere. The Northern Perspective, I know we referenced
Yeah.
their one of their podcasts last week. They're still on YouTube, so who knows? I mean, like that's more or less why I'm there. And then if I get bored, I've been hopping over to Rumble to see what's up there and all that. But maybe one day very soon,
That is
YouTube,
really
like
cool.
Hollywood, will just be a memory, and we'll
Yeah,
all be on the free speech platform, saying what
exactly.
the F we want.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. And I didn't realize they were doing that. The different people on Rumble were doing like raids to other podcasters. Like that's kind of like a. I know that from Twitch and Twitch. Twitch streamers do that, right? Like we're gonna go and raid my friend, and it's like, whoop, and all your viewers kind of transfer over to
Yeah,
their stream.
they
That's
started that
cool.
on YouTube like a few months ago. Like people
Okay.
started talking about that on YouTube, so now it's a thing.
That's that's
We'll
cool.
raid the next podcast, or we'll raid my friend's podcasts and stuff. And YouTube did it, and now I
Yeah.
believe that's what they're doing in Rumble, and they have all of
That
the live shows connected, like in the morning. So you have basically a watch list, or like on TV, scheduled
yeah.
TV, like we used to do back in the day, and all that.
That's right. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, because when I first started getting into Twitch like years ago, or I had to get used to like Twitch culture and stuff like that. And okay, now we're gonna
No.
raid my friends and stuff. Like, oh, that's kind of cool because it's kind of bringing like the video game streaming culture to Rumble. I think it's a good idea. And
Yeah,
yeah,
but I
as
mean,
you
like,
said, YouTube as well.
yeah, but in a way, it's kind of like it's almost like TV now. Back in the
Mm,
day, I used to remember just kind of, like if I was at home, like during the summer, and it was raining, so I'd be watching TV. Like at one point, I'd have the channel on CBC, and there'd be this lineup where, you'd be familiar with it, and eventually, you'd watch like Mr. Dress Up, Sesame Street, and
yeah,
then in the afternoon, you'd get into what was it? The Electric Company,
mm,
321 Contact, that sort of thing. And you
yeah.
kind of, drift into this program TV and stuff. So it's weird how we kind of come full circle with all this rating. It's pretty much what program TV is like now.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's like after this episode of Knight Rider, like stay tuned for Airwolf or whatever. Like those awesome shows back then. Oh
I
my
love
goodness.
those shows though.
Yeah, me
Like I
too.
used to be a big fan of Knight Rider. You
Me
know,
too.
I wanted the Kit. I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember that, but
Oh
at one
no,
point, yeah,
I
you
heard
could
he
like
talked to you and stuff. Like, did you?
no. They had a thing on this, like I think within the second season or first season, end of the first season, they'd started advertising this thing where you could I don't know, send a mail, right,
Oh
to this
yeah.
address, and they would basically send you the Kit, which was a book that had kind of like these faked blueprints of the night industry 2000, and you
Oh,
could flip
that's
through it, and
cool.
yeah, and it'd have like the night industry symbol on it, and it'd basically be like a blueprint spec book
Oh,
and
awesome.
stuff.
I
So, but I never
remember.
got around to it.
Oh, that's cool. Like I
Yeah,
remember, one of my favorite shows growing up was The Dukes of Hazzard, and
yeah,
um,
that
and
was a good one.
I remember like at one point for Christmas or something, I got like the General Lee and Boss Hogg's cars, and they used to like
Oh yeah,
crash and blow up.
yeah, I
Oh my
remember.
goodness!
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
the toy where it broke apart, right, in
yeah.
pieces. Like yeah, I remember that.
Oh
It's cool.
man,
Funny thing is that you would be able to get that today because of the Confederate flag on.
I know, right? I know, and I loved that show.
Yeah, and little did we know what the Confederate flag was about. But
Oh,
but that's the thing. I mean, they think it's a racist flag, and it's kind of the only thing that makes it racist is the fact that the South were for the slaves and stuff, right? But other than I'm not that I'm
yeah,
trying to, you know, downgrade it a bit because slavery is bad. I'm totally against that. But the
yeah,
South
it's
was
just
actually fighting for other things. Like especially I never realized how tyrannical like President Lincoln was.
yeah, like states' rights and stuff. And it's yeah,
Yeah,
it always
you know.
it's always so much more complicated than like, you know, the simplistic explanations, and
Oh yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
because of those sensibilities about slavery and about the present time, it was like, yeah, reruns of Dukes of Hazzard got canceled for that very thing.
But
Exactly.
I don't. It's weird because I don't know. Like it's like people lost the ability to take different complicated ideas and put the bad ones on a shelf and still appreciate things for what they were.
Mhm.
You know, like of course when I grew up, I knew slavery was bad, and I probably knew that was the flag of the South. Eventually, I understood that. And still, I mean, I never equated the good old boys to of the Dukes of Hazards to racist.
No.
Yeah, they
No,
they were
not
your
at
white
all.
generic family. The white
Yeah,
redneck family.
that's not
They love cars. They were really good at bow and arrows and stuff. And dynamite
yeah.
for some odd reason.
It was
And
more there's that
Uncle
heroic
Jesse was a rum runner or a whiskey runner.
and it was more
You know,
heroic, right? They were kind of like the heroic fighters for
well,
the common
they were
man and stuff like
yeah,
that,
they were like
and
Robin Hood basically.
yeah, they were like Robin
You
Hood
know,
in the South, and that's the way I think that's why it was so compelling as, like, a young kid and stuff, plus the cars and the action and everything, and
yeah, and the law wasn't exactly straight, and people were
no.
okay with that.
Yeah.
People were okay that this is the way that they run. This is the reality, and somehow people maybe it's Gen X. We're able to separate stuff and put bad stuff on a shelf and still enjoy things for what they were. Now people
Yeah.
can't even do that. It's sort of like if there's any slight hint of some evil, it's sort of like the whole thing's evil. You
Yeah,
know?
it's like this poison tree, if there's just, like, this little aspect of it that can be construed in a certain way, the whole thing gets canceled,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
find it
really
just ridiculous.
frustrating.
It's ridiculous, and I find people who can't do that. I mean, essentially, it's like people don't have the ability to critically think about stuff. You
Yeah,
know?
they can it's like the unwillingness to sort of entertain an idea even if you might not disagree if not might not agree with it, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and people can't take. And there's it's weird because we talk about everything's all gray now and stuff, and I found that the problem with that type of thinking now is that people are so simplistic in thinking that gray is black still. You know,
yeah, yeah, that there's
it's
no
and I find it
there's
just
no subtlety, there's
no
no
nuance.
nuance. Boop, boop.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
like people gotten dumber or something. Fortunately,
Yeah,
like you can't even use the word retard of all
eh,
things. You know,
did you see that, that AI generated meme that it was Trump signing the executive order, and he was like, "This executive order is gonna allow you
oh yeah.
to call your friends retards." That was so funny. Oh my
And
gosh.
people don't even understand what the word means because literally
Yeah.
retard means slow or
Yeah.
late, like the French word en retard.
Yeah.
It means you're late. You're a little slow on the thinking there. But people seem to associate the whole word to the real retards, like mentally disabled, and somehow like not that I wouldn't have any sympathy for the mentally disabled. They have their own plight and they have their own struggle and all that stuff. I can respect that, but
Yeah.
I value those lives over a real retard that I like calling
Yeah.
retards and stuff. Basically people who can't critically think and understand nuance and stuff. and want to be very black and white about stuff. It's just really weird how we talk about stuff these days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for that executive order. We should be able to use words like retard and spastic again. I have a friend. I have a friend. I have a friend in the UK who he uses the word spastic. I always think it's funny. I don't even know what it means, but I always think it's really funny. Oh my goodness!
Or even how like I don't know, Australians use the word cunt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They call each other.
They're
I'm not
best.
to say again, so we get canceled again. But you know what? Fuck it, because we're no longer on YouTube live, so that's okay. We're gonna be okay. We're not gonna get canceled midstream. So you know what? Yeah. I don't even know why I have this like tick. Like, oh, I shouldn't be saying that.
I know it's because we're conditioned to be like that, right? Like, yeah.
Screw YouTube. They'll get the live show, the unlive show later on, and I think that's what we're going with today.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And Rumble has some of those like priceless adverts that they have where like the guy dressed up as Rumble is like with the guy dressed up as YouTube, and they have this like funny exchange. Have you seen those yet? Like, it's
no,
really
I haven't
funny.
seen it.
It's like I could say this and that because I'm on Rumble, unlike YouTube. Like, anyway,
that's on Rumble somewhere.
Yeah,
I'll pick it up. Okay,
it's kind of like their adverts for freedom of speech and stuff. So Anyway, oh gosh, that's funny.
Anyways, we're starting our show. We got our first image up. We're not really starting the show, but I just want to point out that this latest trend of AI. This is from ChatGPT, which all of a sudden has now this very overused ability to produce Studio Ghibli styled stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought we would just start with the first image of our number one candidate for Prime Minister of Canada in the upcoming elections. It's Pierre Poilievre. I think odd story about this generation. I went on ChatGPT and I did some experimentation, wanted to see like this new trend. And so I thought I'd start making like, memes basically using this ChatGPT ability to now Ghibli-ize everything. So, when I did Pierre Poilievre, actually, I at first, hang on. At first I started with an easy one. Started with this guy.
Yeah. It's Mark Carney.
It's Mark Carney. And I thought it was okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And, I simply said, show me an image, Studio Ghibli style of Mark Carney, doing the Sassafit thing that he did to a reporter when he was telling him, stop badgering me on about, I even forgot what it was about and all that. And he had no problem doing that,
Yeah.
But then I went and I said, you know what, I want to see Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre on, I specifically said Flag Day, doing the Bring It Home pump and all that.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT told me no.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, like this is too political in nature.
Too political. And it's like, what do you mean? Wait a minute. You had no problem doing this, dude? You tell me that you can't do this, dude, doing something positive?
That's interesting, isn't it? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I had to basically tell it, okay, fine. You know what? I want Pierre Poilievre doing a fist pump above his head to the full extent of his arm, behind a Canadian flag, with a large audience behind him. That's literally what I had to do, to get this image done, Yeah. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like ChatGPT is a little bit, partisan.
I even argued with it for like a couple of minutes. Told him like, you're being very biased there, Mr. ChatGPT. Can you explain to me why you're so biased against Pierre Poilievre?
Mm-hmm.
And then he just kept on, telling me this BS about, well, I can't really do anything political, and I'm sorry you're frustrated, and not only was I frustrated, it literally told me, well, unfortunately, I can't do any more images because you've used up all your tokens. Well, what do you mean you used up all my tokens? You literally didn't want to do one of the images and you counted that as an actual generation? That's
Yeah.
BS, man.
And yeah,
It
that's
has
the
actually-
that's the problem, right? With these certain AIs that are biased in a certain way, and they don't necessarily tell you what the bias is, but it's like it's in the programming, and you have to kind of use these different tricks to bypass it. That's really
I
funny.
literally had to log in a new email to actually generate this last one,
Yeah.
which I'll
And
go
it's
into,
so
and then we'll
it's
get into the
good.
show. Yeah, this is my favorite. Even though
Yeah.
I like Pierre Poilievre, this is my favorite.
Yeah, that's great.
This
guy right here. Who ruined Canada and the NDP? This guy.
This is the
And he
first
looks
guy
so
who's
happy
sick.
too.
Yeah. No, I told him I wanted him with a smile and everything because he's always smiling.
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty good. If we ever get into merch, as we were talking earlier, I think I'm definitely going to go buy this shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. This guy. It's
This
a
guy.
pretty good rendering of Jag Singh. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Anyhow, I guess we should get into the show. So let's get into our particulars like we usually do at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch us on X or Twitter, as it used to be called, you can find the show at Hand of Infinity, where the blue check mark for the common nonsense at. You can also talk to me there. You can talk to Mikerowaveable at Microwave TCN, not Microwaveable. Microwave TCN. We established that last week.
Yep.
If you want to watch the show on YouTube, you can, but you're going to have to wait till the show's over because that's when I'm actually going to upload the show. Whereas before I actually did it live, we've switched over to
Rumble,
the platform for free speech. And you can see our channel's branded thanks to the views we get there. And so I thought from this point on, we should go with the people and we should go with the platform for free speech live.
Yeah.
So you catch us live now from here on out on Rumble, on X, and on Facebook, because that's where a lot of people who know me can catch the show. And then afterwards, of course, after the live show, you can catch us once again on YouTube. It'll be on our on my channel page, The Common Nonsense. You'll see the playlist for the podcast at the top of the page. You can't miss it. If you want to watch all our shows, they'll all be there. Same thing for Rumble. On this particular channel, all the shows will be in the order in which the shows happen. I think latest first. Same thing as YouTube.
Yeah.
You can catch us there. All the shows, thanks to free speech, will be on that channel without a miss. We won't be canceled like we are on YouTube. And if somehow it doesn't make it on YouTube, come to Rumble and watch us all there.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, it was
Right.
awesome to see your test stream on Rumble. Even had some good
Dirty
views
views?
already. Yeah.
30 views on a
30.
test stream for 10 minutes.
That's
It's like,
awesome.
we should be on this platform, man.
Yeah, it's
But
a
anyways.
good decision.
Thank you once again to all the people who follow us on Rumble, who gave us all the views, who got our channel branded. Thanks to y'all. And from this point out, we are live.
Yeah, thank you,
And
everyone.
if you have any comments, reach out to us. Mikerowaveable will attend to those comments, bring up on screen. If you want to get into a conversation, we'll definitely respond to any comments that you bring up on screen. So feel free to comment on whatever platform you're on whatever platform you catch us live. And I guess this is on with the show. First item on our timeline, which we often do at the beginning of the show to somewhere in midpoint, we will start with this item. All right, so this is beginning of the week. Mark Carney, everyone else is in political campaign mode. And this is Mark Carney talking about controversy which has come up on the fact that he has tax shelters, despite, espousing that, he cares about Canada and insisting that people pay their share like all liberals do. But of course, when it comes to themselves...
Liberal leader Mark Carney campaigning on his business experience. Now he has to explain it.
In the case of those Brookfield funds, what was the argument for registering the funds in Bermuda?
Being questioned about overseeing 2 offshore investment funds. worth $25 billion, registered in a tax haven, which isn't illegal.
Is it avoiding tax in any way?
It doesn't avoid tax because the tax is paid in, for example, the examples all I gave, the taxes are paid in Canada, yes.
Carney co-chaired the funds while he worked at Brookfield Asset Management.
And I don't even know if that's true. I mean, does he actually pay taxes on it? I mean, isn't that the whole point of a tax shelter?
Yeah,
You know?
I don't think he was being truthful in that comment, because that's the whole point of doing it. And it was huge amounts of money too. I saw a breakdown the other day and it was in the billions.
Yeah, and he tried to explain it off as if, oh, it's basically, you know, to centralize everything on some offshore account. What?
Yeah. Well, I don't have any. It's like, yeah, I don't have. There's no benefit to having an offshore account, you know. And and everyone can see that on the surface of it, it's just terrible hypocrisy again, and it speaks to the fact that citizens in Canada, everyone except for this hyper elite that has this ability to find these tax havens and stuff, we're all overtaxed here. Everyone else, the citizens, are overtaxed in this country. And
he has no problem, you know, implementing those taxes on the Canadians. But of course, when it comes to paying his fair share, he'll put everything in a tax shelter.
Exactly.
You know.
And he's been talking about carbon taxes and carbon pricing, along with all of the other, you know, taxation that people are subjected to. And he's been talking about that for years. And he's been talking about that in public, in particular, for the last, you know, several months, right? I mean, every time he gets a microphone in front of his face, it seems like he's talking about carbon pricing. At least like a month ago. I'm not sure if they've decided to like keep him from doing that, but that's certainly one of his big talking points.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Bernie Sanders when he talks about the millionaires and
the millionaires.
Oh, I'm sorry, we can't talk about the millionaires because I'm a millionaire right now. So it's the billionaires. We need to make the billionaires pay their share.
And then RFK was like, Bernie. And quite rightly, like, RFK was calling Bernie Sanders out as one of the largest recipients of pharmaceutical dollars in Congress and stuff like that. And that was a brilliant clip. Yeah, these guys, right?
We played that, didn't we?
We did, yeah, in a previous show.
Yeah.
RFK calling
Bernie's going, no.
Yeah. It's like, you caught him.
Yeah.
That was priceless.
But it's crap that nothing ever happens to these people.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. All these things where the power of the state comes down big time on the individual citizen, versus like these guys who have these political connections or in these elite circles. They can do whatever they want with impunity a lot of the time. And the good thing is that I think people are seeing that with Carney. They're seeing these constant, the success of scandals with Carney during the election campaign, and it's good that these things are coming out, right? Because people can see it. I hope, and the people who are amenable to voting for the Conservatives are seeing this stuff, and they don't.
And that's
the
one thing we can do to hurt them. Don't.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure. It's really, you know, in our Canadian culture, and I think in the States too, and in Canada, like taxpayers don't like the mismanagement or fraud. They don't like the mismanagement of taxpayers' money, right? Because it's one of those things.
I'd really like to believe that, you know, but of course, then, you know, why are there people upset with Doge? That really doesn't. I don't really understand that. You know, it's like,
yeah, and I think that's a case with. I think, you know, honestly, I think the case with Doge. I think the real people, real American citizens who voted for Trump overwhelmingly, they want Doge to operate. They want Doge to cut the fat and corruption and all that stuff, money laundering in the American government, because they know how bad it is. And I think they really want it. It's it's these radicals that are opposed to it. That's
Well,
that's
yes,
definitely
but
my opinion.
no, you're right. But like I know a lot of people like around me who still think that, Musk has to be taken down and he's doing something evil, cleaning up the government, and then putting all these poor government workers who are very lazy out of a job, who love the fact that they don't have to do very much to enjoy a cushy life. And it's, all these people who don't know any better for some odd reason, they're willing to say, "Oh, you poor government workers, it's such a sin that Elon Musk has taken your jobs away." I really don't understand that, and there's so many people, at least on my side of Canada, who think that way,
Yeah.
you know?
There are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, they make the argument that they almost it's almost like an ideologically, it's like anathema to their worldview that cutting government, even if it's justified, it's almost like they oppose it for ideological reasons. Like they can't get it in their head that big government is so inefficient and it needs to be curtailed. It needs to be reduced and cut. And the public sector is at every level is the worst for this, because like the public sector isn't subject to the same forces that the private sector is, in terms of like trying to find efficiency. It's just like this in perpetuity big government grows, and people don't understand the fact that like a huge managerial state that takes all this money, and it's not good for the country. Like,
No, and like, like as we talked earlier, off the show, like how I think everything should be like a project in the government. There should be a start and an end. Not this ongoing thing that needs to self-perpetuate.
yes,
And we have a lot of departments in our Canadian government that do that. That if they've solved the problem for some, God forbid they solve a problem, you know,
yeah,
they find other problems to try to solve to justify their existence. And I
yeah,
think the government should be a project.
yeah,
If there's a problem, you start a committee, it has a start and an end, and then there's actually an evaluation on whether the project was successful. And at the end of the term, if the problem isn't solved, then you find another committee that can actually solve the problem.
yeah, and
You know?
it should be like that. There should be that self-reflection about these big government departments, or these departments that are, yeah, like task forces and so on, that get in there you know for the specific task, but they just stay around. And maybe it's
Well,
just
that's
that a lot of people just don't understand that that's the way the public sector works, not both here and the States. And Canada's just as bad. And during the
we
liberal last 10 years, it's been really bad that way. There's been an emphasis on behalf of the liberals to create these extra bureaucracies and expand the power of government, rather than leaving things in the hands of the private sector, or whatever. And that's a lot of the job creation, quote unquote, during the last 10 years has been in the public sector, right?
No, I know.
Um,
And the other thing is, like, we pay so much taxes here in Canada.
yeah.
It's almost like you suggested, it's almost like a Stockholm syndrome type thing,
Oh, yeah,
you
that's
know?
right.
Where,
Yeah,
oh no, no, not our government. No.
yeah,
It's not
and
our poor government. It's like they're not doing the job, folks. Come on.
yeah, and it costs
Get
exactly.
results, you know?
Like, even if things were working 100% tickety boo, it still costs a fortune, let alone the US aid scandals in the States, or the like almost mirror image scandal in Canada, where it was the Department of Foreign Affairs had their and international development, like they had their own scandal
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of like
I bet.
snuck under the radar, with all these projects built, like millions and billions of dollars going out for these international you know, llamas and Belize and corgis on public transit type projects. You know that.
Well, we
And
don't know that for a fact, but it wouldn't surprise me. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
if they had it in a place like United States, we definitely have it in a place like Canada.
Oh,
That's
definitely.
just my opinion,
And
but you know.
sex changes for polar bears in the Arctic, you know. stuff stuff that like it's just a waste. Like the Western, incidentally, the Western Standard had a story recently. It was about Trudeau during Trudeau's tenure. He spent $11 billion on international gender projects initiatives all over the world.
Whoa,
11 billion. Um,
crazy.
and it's just like, and it was like, whoa, that sounds like US aid as well, right? And
Oh yeah.
I would be all
You know,
for a
like
Doge style cleaning out of our public service too.
I don't have any problems of like caring for transgender. Just I don't think it's our place to care about transgendered in another country on taxpayers'
Right.
money.
And on top of that, it
No.
seemed in so many cases like the 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 earmarked funds weren't even going to those initiatives.
Oh,
They were
probably.
getting like whew, like filtered to or sent
Some
to like
bureaucrat somewhere is making money
yeah,
off of this like cause that never gets resolved
exactly.
and keeps constantly getting funded by the government every year, and you wonder why we pay so much taxes.
Yeah.
You know.
Or they're going to some shady group that was, you know, being subversive, you know, or like starting up like a flag waving color revolution and God knows where. And that's the reality of the managerial state and its corruption. And
Yeah.
maybe it's not corruption, it's, you know, one of those jokes. It's like it's not a bug, it's a feature. Like, it's actually doing what it's designed to do. And anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Anyways, Pierre actually had a response to this, so we won't continue with the actual report. But you get the idea of what you know Carney was talking about. Just trying to do the fancy words, and you know, so that
Yeah.
you know the people he thinks are too stupid to understand will think that, oh no, this is something we typically do in banks. This is normal and all that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I
I'm
think
a
Pierre
bank.
actually I think Pierre actually explains everything in this bit that I have. So
Mm.
here's Pierre's response to to the issue, or what, hang on, to what happened.
The gentleman who's a very informed journalist, whether he knows what Mark Carney's investments are. And he said, no, that's not his fault. That's Mr. Carney's fault. I just point out that it's incredible that even the journalists who follow this stuff very carefully do not know all the conflicts that Mr. Carney admits that he has. Now, he claims that somehow this money gets funneled through a Bermuda tax haven only to come back to Canada. Well, why wouldn't he just leave it in Canada in the first place? If it were going to be taxed in Canada, he wouldn't need to funnel it through Bermuda. I don't know. How many of you funnel your investments through Bermuda before you bring them back to pay taxes? I think the answer is zero.
Right.
You know, and so Mr. Carney makes these workers who are struggling to pay their bills pay full taxes in Canada, while he ships his investments off to Bermuda to dodge his obligations to this country. That's money that should be going in tax revenue to fund our schools and our hospitals, but instead it's going to pad the pockets of millionaires and billionaires like him. He thinks that taxes are just for the little people, not for big shot bankers like him.
Exactly.
Yep. And
Can't be any more
Canadians
clear
hate
than that.
Exactly.
This
That's
is not a conspiracy. This is
no.
straight from the people in politics, and this is you can't get anywhere clearer than that. You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mark Carney's not being honest about his investments. You know, Mark Carney's not being honest to the people about caring for Canada. You know,
Yeah.
The fact that he avoids paying the taxes on his investments, even if these are accounts that he's managing and stuff.
That's
you know,
right.
for other rich people. You know, I think it's hypocrisy.
Oh
that
yeah.
A man like that is, you know, has no problem making the people behind him pay all the taxes to the fullest. And of course, if they miss on anything for whatever reason, they'll come and nail them.
Oh yeah.
You know, to the extent of the law.
Canadians, or like the vast majority of Canadians, hate this sort of stuff. This one law for me, one law for another law for ye. You know, like they really despise that sort of arrogant hypocrisy. And Pierre's great here, like calling him out on that. Like looking when he looks back and smiles, like I don't think like the rest of you would do that with your holdings. You know, you don't like filter them through Bermuda in these huge amounts, right? Was it a few weeks ago, or was it last week or something? There was a news story. I can't remember what outlet did it, but they broke down like the Brookfield like monies that were going through in this sort of spreadsheet that were going through Bermuda, and it was like, holy cow.
Yeah, there was a bunch of podcasters that actually went through the actual numbers and everything.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, once again, I mean, the whole point of the story really is that, you know, for a man who claims that he cares about Canada, he sure knows how to show it.
Definitely.
Anyhow, let's keep going. So next on our list, Carney's out on the trail, but of course, this happens.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Serapio. Well, we begin this evening with some breaking news as Donald Trump unveiled his plan to apply tariffs to foreign-made vehicles, slapping 25% on cars and trucks made outside of the United States. Take a listen to what we heard from Trump himself.
And what we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. We start off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at, and we go to 25%. And basically, as you know, and as you've been saying, not reporting as accurately as it should be reported because it's a massive story. Business is coming back to the United States so that they don't have to pay tariffs.
So that was Donald Trump.
So yeah, so the announcement of the clear announcement of what they're actually going to do when it comes to vehicles being produced in Canada, very specifically, and being imported, exported to, imported to, exported. Anyways, being sent to the United States for sales, they will now be taxed at 25%, I believe.
Yeah.
And I get his reasons for it. You know, I really do. But I don't know. I'm on two minds on this. You know, like, I mean, the whole thing is that if you're going to go here, you know, and force people to, you know, make all their factories in the United States, I get it. You want to do it to get jobs for the people in your country. I totally get that, you know. But, you know, when you start, like, basically taking out jobs in the neighboring country next to you and stuff and causing this chaos and imbalance, you know, how are you going to expect countries around you to cooperate with you? You know, there has to be some kind of give and take, you know, and I get that, you know, Donald Trump feels like his country has been taken for a while, and I totally get that, you know, but not like doing this all or nothing, you know, calling out all the countries and basically, you know, doing this straight up like tariff on everything and forcing like these businesses to take back and close down the factories they have in like the neighboring countries and bringing everything back to the United States and all that. And then Canada is like loses industry, loses jobs, becomes poorer. What's the point? You know?
Yeah. I feel like this is one of the major themes of our show, right? Because we started our show and just at the start of all this new trade policy on behalf of the states. And you're right, like in the case of Canada, and we've said this before, that the United States and Canada, especially in the auto sector, like is so integrated. It's integrated to the point where the border doesn't really matter. You know, if and that's to facilitate like the back and forth, the crossing of the border, like I remember watching something where like a piston or something, they traced it hypothetically, and it crossed the
Right.
border like 7 times before it was finally put in an engine. And that's a really kind of one of those unique relationships in the world as far as, trade is concerned. And I think what really needs to happen is when this election is over and Pierre Poilievre or even, God forbid, Carney gets in there, they're going to have to, the number one on the list is going to be renegotiating NAFTA, no, renegotiating CUSMA, whatever they're calling it these days, and to sit
Right.
down and really hammer out what needs to be done. And
Like you can't really have this thing where basically the United States is rich and all the neighboring countries go poor, and to the point where what? Right. Like what? You're going to absorb them or something? Because I think it's to Donald Trump's advantage, for at least through Canada, that we get, he helps us get our act together,
yeah.
and then we can go about like defending the North so he doesn't have to worry about it,
Yeah,
you know?
that's right. I mean, some of the things like even Pierre Poilievre, he even conceded the fact, and quite readily, and Pierre knows this, that we do need to increase our defense spending, and that's one of the key things about these tariffs that Trump's imposing on us, is that he's also using the trade tariffs as a means to get the Canadian government to improve in other areas, like like our government's stance on organized crime, our stance on the North and defense, and you can see why he's doing it, right? Like, but and he's trying, of course, domestically, he's trying to repatriate all the lost manufacturing jobs, right? Like the other
Right.
day, I saw, I think it was Hyundai was going to put like this multi-billion-dollar investment in opening plants in the United States, and it's going to bring all sorts of jobs to the United States, increase the relationship between, I think Hyundai is a South Korean company, and increase the relationship. But the Canada-US relationship is unique and it's different, especially in the auto sector, and also when you think of it like this aluminum and steel, and I mean, that's priority one, is to get all those things hammered out in the next renegotiation of NAFTA, because we need to do that so badly. And in the meanwhile, we're lost in the confusion of all these tariffs, right?
Well,
Yeah.
No, I mean, like once I get why Donald Trump thinks the way he does. It's just sometimes I find he's so short-sighted, and he doesn't have. I get it. He's being patriotic. He's trying to defend his country, but at the same
Yeah.
time, if you're doing this at the expense of the countries around you, I don't think
Yeah.
that's to your benefit. Because eventually, if you want everything to work out, if you want to actually get rich, then there has to be a sense that, well, eventually you're going to have to sell to other countries,
Yeah.
right? You can't. I mean, it's nice to think that, especially here, that, yeah, you could bring down the provincial borders and we start trading with each other. Great, that's fine,
Yeah.
But eventually, we still have to bring in money into this country. There
That's
has to
right.
be trade between countries for anything to work.
Yeah.
Because if all of a sudden, like, the United States is depending on tariffs, and therefore there's a sense that, well, that means that you're going to want people to bring their goods into the country where they can buy it so they can pay the tariffs. But if they feel like they can't do business with you because you're constantly leeching all the companies and businesses and manufacturing and jobs and from the other countries around you, something's going to
Yeah.
break,
No, you're right about that. And I'm really hoping, like, I really hope that in the near future, like after this election, and we get a new federal ministry in there after the election, they're going to be able to hammer out these differences, and we're going to get back to some semblance of normalcy between, like, where the tension is lowered, and we get back to some sort of normalcy as far as Canada-US relations are concerned on all fronts, including trade. I'm really hoping for that. It might be
Yeah.
wishful thinking, But yeah, like we have to be able to do things for mutual benefit as far as our trading relationship is concerned, because it's I think it has been mutually beneficial, and Canada has given the United States traded with the United States as far as, heavy crude oil and resources and all the stuff,
Well,
all and for decades, and a lot of times the Americans are getting preferential treatment, you know,
well, they are. You know
as
why
far
they
as
are? It's because
cost and stuff.
we don't build those pipelines where we can sell to other countries, and of
Yeah,
course we're forced to give them our oil at a discount,
that's right.
literally.
Yeah.
A- And I don't think that's fair. You know.
Yeah, and I hope we can iron out all these differences. And I just think it's almost like part of it is Trump really pushing really, really, really hard for advantage going into these negotiations that he knows have to take place. And it's just, yeah, it's the way he does things. It's like, and he's good at it, right? Because everybody's been scrambling around. And I just read today that there's some sort of thing with the United Kingdom that he wants to attach some concessions to the UK-US trade relationship as far as freedom of speech is concerned, and that's kind of
Oh, that's good.
interesting.
That is good. Yeah.
And that's something that the UK that they're probably going to scramble around like in
Well,
order
they're
to
gonna
do
have to,
that,
and
and they have to do
eh,
it. Um,
yeah, that for stuff like that. I mean, that's basically how they got the EI working into the corporate stream. Basically,
yeah,
having other companies demand that if you want to play with us, then you're gonna have to implement the EI. Okay,
yeah,
that
exactly.
kind of way of forcing other countries to behave a certain way, I have no problem with that,
Yeah,
especially when it's stuff like free speech and all that. Instead
yeah,
of DEI.
that's
You know,
right.
God forbid.
But yeah, like I mean, this trade and tariff business has been so confusing and so disruptive, um, that yeah, it's been confusing and it's causing chaos, but it sure has been interesting. But I really hope things get back to normal very soon.
Same here. I think a lot of Canadians are hoping for that. Are hoping something happens after this election, especially.
Yeah,
So
me too.
we'll see. Anyhow, next on our timeline.
In the freezing rain! A group of protesters braved the weather in Montreal to send Tesla CEO Elon Musk a message.
I've sold all of my Tesla stock because I do not believe what he's doing is right, and I want people to know that they shouldn't buy his products because that's the best way to influence and provide a consequence to the actions that he's done.
Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go!
The rally in Montreal was part of a weekend of protests at Tesla dealerships around the world to call out Musk and his association with the Trump administration.
We can't protest Donald Trump right now because he doesn't have a Trump Tower in Saskatoon. So I think this is the next closest thing. I'm personally outraged that these guys talk about annexing Canada as if...
No, he's not. He's LARPing. What do you think?
Oh,
No.
I really think that this is like these anti-Elon Musk and Tesla um, protest actions and vandalism and like arson and acts of terrorism are acts of terrorism, and I think that Kash Patel and is it Dan Bongino are going to treat these actions, well, the actions in the United States, as cases of domestic terrorism. I think they should. And I think the FBI I think they've just yesterday or something like that have constituted this like task force to go after the organizations, the individuals who are aiding and abetting what constitutes as political violence, right? And it's not a grassroots thing. It's a really organized thing where these groups, these political violence groups, are getting political support and monetary support in order to do what they're doing. And we've seen fire bombings and people breaking windows and intimidating Tesla owners, and I'm really against it because it's just another example of political violence. Like, these guys in Montreal seem like a bit tamer, but I think it's a misguided protest movement, and it's not organic. It's really it's been fomented
they've been
by these guys, these organizers.
They're very heavily misinformed. Like, they don't really understand like the whole point of Doge, and all of a sudden they want like I said, I feel like they're LARPing. They've come to the point in their lives where they want to be relevant, so they hop on this bandwagon where all of a sudden they're like these, just like in the 60s, their protests to the Vietnam War and everything. They think they're along those lines when really these people are so badly misinformed.
I think that is true to a certain extent. Like, there are people who are like that they think, based on what they've been told, what they've seen or read, that they are opposing, like some sort of caricature of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And yet they're not doing the right thing. And this protest movement, quote unquote, is very highly supported by people who in the Democratic Party, and who want to use political violence as a tool to attack the Trump regime. And this is a case where the Trump regime, Kash Patel, Bongino, and the Justice Department have to go after the people organizing this stuff to cut off their sources of funding.
In our case, I hope the RCMP goes along the same lines too. And
I hope they
whoever
do.
they catch like vandalizing Tesla dealers or Teslas themselves, I hope they get prosecuted.
Yeah, like the people, like a lot of, and it's interesting how the people in some of this footage here in Montreal, they look like they're pretty peaceful, but as soon and people in Canada and the United States have the right to protest, but they don't have a right to destroy property. They don't have a right to set dealerships on fire. Like that, when it moves into the realm of political violence, we have to, and the Americans have to go after people, because I'm really against the trend that we've seen over the last 10 years in North America and elsewhere of political violence being used as a tool to intimidate the electorate, to intimidate people who are running for office, and
And just another thing that came to mind, it's like I get that these also could be Canadians who are frustrated with the tariff wars and feel like they have no other way of expressing their frustration other than jumping on this bandwagon. But it's so misguided.
I agree. Like, I think there's probably some well-meaning people that are being misguided, or and they're making the wrong decision. And this isn't the hill to die on. And I don't agree with the protests personally. Like, I don't mind protests as long as they're peaceful, but yeah.
Well, this dealership in particular is not too far from where I live. And last week or the week before, 2 youths had come in and basically spray painted the entrance with pink paint.
Oh, okay.
I'm surprised nobody came out there with a baseball bat, to tell you the truth, and do something about it. They just let them do it, and it's sort of like, this is wrong. It's like, this is the wrong thing to do. Like, it doesn't matter how frustrated you are. This won't change anything.
That's right. Like, and all throughout social media, the last few weeks, just seeing footage, different videos of people going after Tesla cars, like vandalizing them, trying to intimidate their owners. There was one instance where this disabled woman, this young gal who was in a wheelchair, she owned a Tesla vehicle and she used it to go around, and these people were intimidating her, and she was in her wheelchair, and she used her Tesla vehicle to go about her daily life, right? And it was one of those sad things that shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't be subjected to this type of physical intimidation, right?
Especially Tesla owners. Like, you know what? It's not their fault. No
No.
matter how angry you are at Elon Musk, it's wrong to terrorize the people who own Tesla cars because they've already paid for it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, okay, sure, do your protests in front of the Teslas and stuff, the Tesla dealerships and all.
Yeah.
You know, that's fine. You know, but don't spray paint the Teslas. Don't damage Teslas. Don't damage like show floors or anything like that.
Yeah, like
because it's not proving the point.
remember, like I think was it before inauguration day? Remember that like seemingly like endless peaceful transition to power? There was that cyber truck that someone jury rigged with the guy's dead body in the front and rammed it into Trump Tower. And was it in Vegas or something?
Yeah, in Las Vegas. Yeah, no. It was the guy died in the car doing it. Basically.
Yeah, and it was so dodgy and it was so ghoulish and violent, and it was a clear intimidation tactic against Elon Musk from whoever it was, people who have a vested interest in the corrupt gravy train in the United States. And I would never participate in a protest like this because I think it's misguided, and Doge needs to keep on doing what it's doing, and I think we should stay out of it. It needs to come here. Yeah, we need a Doge
come here and clean up the government.
Yeah,
I got no problem with that.
The other thing I saw on social media is like people have started to conceal their Teslas with getting like a kit that dresses their Tesla up as like a Honda Civic and stuff. Just to keep
that.
I think protect their vehicle and stuff like that. And people
I think Tesla owners should basically get together and do some kind of parade protest or something like that.
Yeah. Get some extra add-on field modifications and flamethrowers and stuff like that. No. Yeah. I'm just joking. That was parody.
Yeah, let's keep going with our timeline. So, anyways, due to the tariffs, the impending tariffs, Carney had to actually call off some of his campaigning, come back, have a secret cabinet meeting about what they're going to do, and eventually he finally calls Mr. Trump or President Trump.
Yes.
And this is what happened the day after. He actually talks about it.
Today, President Trump and I spoke on the phone. We had a very constructive discussion, and we agreed to begin comprehensive negotiations about a new economic and security relationship between our two sovereign countries immediately following the federal election. I made it clear that I will be working very hard with my colleagues behind me. I will be working very hard over the next month to earn the right to represent Canada in those discussions. We've made progress. It's the beginning of negotiations. We will have comprehensive discussions on the broader economic partnership after the federal election.
Now, I don't know if we didn't bring it up in this timeline. We should have, but the day before this happened, he goes on, I think he made some kind of press conference where he actually said something along the lines like, the relationship we knew with America is over.
Yeah.
So, you know, then this call happened, and all of a sudden he's just talking about, well, after the election's over, we'll get together and we'll talk things out.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing what a call can do, right?
Yeah, and you're right about that. I mean, Carney was very vocal about saying, that our, bilateral relationship is over, which was reckless to say on the surface of it. And
there's so many companies that work across the border.
Yeah, and the the liberals have wrapped themselves in this anti-Americanism. That's been the basis of their campaign. And now he's flip-flopped on that, saying, you know what? I had a good and productive conversation with Trump. I mean, that's what I want. I want to see Canada and the United States go back to some sort of normalized relationship. But Carney's campaign has been all over the place. They flip-flopped. he's personally flip-flopped. He's made all sorts of mistakes, and I like the fact that people have called him out on his flip-flopping. Like it just goes to show that he's made a lot of mistakes, and I hope he keeps making them.
Well, they don't come across as mistakes he acknowledges, really. He hasn't been any. If anything, he's just going day by day.
Yeah, he just keeps
I mean,
on going.
It could be as a result of his inexperience as a politician.
It could be. Yeah, it could be.
Like he says, he's not a what did he say exactly? He's not a career politician.
Yeah, he's.
And here he is running for the highest political office in the country. It's like, okay,
That's
I
right.
guess-
Like someone pointed out the other day that in this federal election, this is going to be the first time that Mark Carney's name has appeared on any ballot, because he's never been elected to public office at any time during his career, right? So this is kind of interesting. But yeah, he ended up talking to Trump, and it was interesting. Like Donald Trump on Truth Social said that he was actually kind of like, no, we had a good discussion, and
actually, we have it right here. Well, let's play that. Actually, reminded me. Yes, we do have that.
Ending the swearing-in ceremony for the U.S. Attorney General for New Jersey. He is speaking about his call with Prime Minister Mark Carney. Let's listen.
Tariffs. You said if that were to happen, that you would be responding with large-scale tariffs. Will you be following through with that promise?
Well, absolutely. But we had a very good conversation. Mark called me today at 10 o'clock. We put out
Notice he said Mark and not the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
a statement. We had a very, very good talk. He's going through an election now, and we'll see what happens. But we have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd, and I'm not referring to Canada, but many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many, many decades, And, that has to stop. We're going to end up with a very good relationship with Canada and a lot of the other countries. Some we probably won't. It won't be so pleasant. But I think most countries are agreeing with me. They actually, many of them have actually apologized. They said, look, we have taken advantage. And
which country was that? There was a country that actually, was it Vietnam, right? And actually removed all the tariffs. So now there are no tariffs between the trade between America and Vietnam.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
that's good.
I think he's talking about Vietnam, who actually did that very recently.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I
a different tone, right? Like a different tone from Trump. Like, you pointed it out. He called Mark Carney by his first name. Yeah, that was very Trump thing to do. But yeah, like
he didn't refer to him as the governor. So
exactly. The
right
tone. He's changed his tone, and it's very Trump, right? Like, as we've said so many times in the past, that Trump's hatred or dislike of Justin Trudeau, like, it was personal, and it was mutual. And like Trump really disliked Freeland and Trudeau, and personal feelings really matter to how Trump deals with people. And it's almost like he's giving Mark Carney a little bit, like the benefit of the doubt, a little bit, and a little bit. So it might, definitely a different tone from the president. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But, I'd like to point out that in the end, nothing really happened. The temperature went down maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But, the tariffs are still on. And, as of today, they're in full force.
That's right.
So nothing changed from this call other than the temperature dropped a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
So good thing. But, once again, I mean, does it say anything about Carney? Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like some people in the independent media have pointed out that Mark Carney and the Trump family seem to have some sort of connection. I don't know how big the connection is. I don't know how big the connection between Carney and Jared Kushner is really. Like maybe Trump and Carney do know each other from social circles, but I have no idea.
No.
No.
Kind of one of those things not in our pay grade.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we can only see what happens in the end. Once everything's said and done, maybe we'll know something about it, or maybe there was some truth behind it. Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, anyhow, so since Carney was now, in town in the region of Ottawa, of course, he takes this opportunity to open up his campaign office in Nepean.
That's right.
Big event. Big man himself. Woo. Are those the very expensive sneakers he wore?
Yeah. They look like it.
Okay, bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Who's ready?
I'm Mark Carney.
All right, who's ready? Who's ready to stand up? Who's ready to put back the Carney sign? Who's ready to stand up for Canada? Who's ready to stand up for me? Help me to get elected here in Nepean. I can't do anything for
Remember
you.
that name.
I want to thank Hillary. I want to thank all of you for volunteering already a tremendous amount of time on my behalf, on behalf of the Liberal Party, and on behalf of our country. Cette élection est l'élection la plus importante de nos vies.
I know his French is awful,
This is the
but
most important election of our lifetime. It's critical in redefining our relationship with the United States. It's critical in redefining our economy on our own terms, standing up for Canada, creating one economy, one strong economy. And I can think of no better place to build that economy out than Nepean. Nepean et le Canada. Il y a presque une tiers personnes ici qui sont bilingues. Okay? Yeah, c'est vrai, c'est vrai.
Oh, this is
On a
painful.
de la diversité de notre grand pays. We have the diversity of our country here. Yeah. All the identities. When we think about
yeah, we're very well represented. We got the token Indian guy over there. We got the token Latinx, maybe a Lebanese guy here. Maybe a French person somewhere. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it feels
You know.
contrived, right? And I think Candace Malcolm, I think it was Candace Malcolm pointed out, like you can see this is like the launch of his campaign in his riding, and it was like there was only like 47 people there, 40 people in the room, and
Oh,
she
it
made
is a small room.
yeah,
it is.
and,
It is a campaign office, so.
and she
Can't
made
really
the
fit
point
too
of
many.
saying like this is, and it was almost like when he was trying to get people to cheer or something, like that's been one of the themes during his campaign is like he doesn't generate any excitement. He has to. It's like Jeb Bush. Remember when Jeb Bush was running? When Jeb Bush says, "Please clap," I always think of that when I see Carney when he's trying to. Because
I wasn't
oh my
politically
God.
active back when Jeb Bush came on, but I know Jeb Bush. I've seen Jeb
Yeah.
Bush, and I know exactly what you mean. That's how impactful that whole meme was when memes didn't even exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, very Jeb Bush.
Exactly when like Trump was saying, very low energy. Remember that? And that's and Carney's events always they always like come across as low energy, like sterile events. And they're so controlled. And then he tries to generate some sort of excitement, and then his speeches are always like fake, and his
Well, on
broken
that,
French.
it's because his speeches are fake, and it's because he's an insincere person. That's my opinion.
Yep.
Okay, it's my opinion, but
Yep.
I think that's why he comes across as low energy, because when you don't, when you're trying to not lie, but you have this false image of yourself, and deep within you that you're not the truth. There's nothing you can do within yourself to generate the energy you need to be sincere.
Yeah, it's so
You know?
insincere. It's like, and it's been like that for the whole campaign, and we're just. It feels like we're still just getting started, but it's like
He's LARPing.
He's LARPing, and everybody knows it, and they're all pretending, and they're all there just because they have to be. It's really
The Emperor has no clothes on, man.
Yeah, yeah, and to
So
contrast that with the Pierre Poilievre's events, where they're rocking. Like his rallies have been really well attended. Like. And they're rocking,
No
and
comparison.
he knows how to do it. And Carney's campaign is just so flat.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, comparing like Pierre's within the last 4 days, you know, and we'll see this later on. You know, Pierre has done like 4 rallies in 4 different cities across Canada, bringing like not hundreds, thousands of people, like 5,000, 2,000, 3,000. You know, to whatever big venue would support it.
Yeah.
You know, and to the point where, like, even you know, the week before when everything kicked off, that in North York, they had to send people home because they couldn't fit everybody in that large,
you
know, hotel conference room that
That's
he
right.
kicked things off at. You know,
and like you found that really great clip that the pleb had when he went out into the lineup that was snaking its way outside and around the corner, and they couldn't get those people in, and the energy was just it was the crowd was energized. They wanted to be there. They wanted to meet Pierre. They wanted to meet his family. It's been the Carney's events have been so low energy and just sterile. Oh my gosh.
And I guess going on, I will see more of it actually, because after this, he once again gets back on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
And one of the first notable events was basically a trip to Georgetown, Ontario.
Yes.
In a pub.
In a pub.
So this is, I believe this is on the Saturday or Sunday that he did this?
Yeah, this weekend, this past weekend.
So I believe that woman in the white shirt with the microphone, she's the candidate for Georgetown.
Yeah.
The Liberal candidate for Georgetown.
Great. I'm going to get started. Okay, it's me. Hi, everyone. Hello. Hello, Georgetown. And welcome to our friends from Milton as well. My name is Christina Tesser-Dirksen. I am your Liberal candidate for the new riding. Thank you. For the new riding of Milton East.
Well, let's go on to...
You need a steady hand. Mark Carney and the Liberal Party are going to forge the strongest economy in the G7.
Yay.
Right?
Yay. Come on, people. Be more enthusiastic.
He did it again. Come on, clap,
you notice
everybody.
it? Come on, clap, everyone. I'm Mark Carney.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Mr. Carney, you are the right man at the right moment.
It must really hurt to have to... I don't know. Okay, maybe she does believe in what she's saying, but you know, I feel sorry for liberals sometimes. You know,
I know
they have to back this guy. You know,
yeah. Like, and is again, it's just, you can feel like everybody seems like low energy, disinterested, and everything's fake. It's so contrived, it's so controlled. Everybody in the independent media, like Kean Bexley in particular, who has tried to get into these Liberal events, get barred at the door, right? Because they might, you know, say something or do something that isn't controlled. And you get that feel again from this event, right? Like, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were just some people who decided to go to the pub and they just happened to be there when Mark Carney walked in the door, and they were like, who is this guy? Because it's just so fake.
And why a pub? Why a pub? Because a pub is a very cozy, small place. I mean, Why didn't he just do something in an auditorium somewhere or something
And
like that?
I really think it's because they can't get the people out. They're not generating the popular interest, right? You remember?
Well, not according to the polls. The
No,
polls
and
say otherwise.
well, yeah, and there's a lot of things that there's a lot of trouble with these polls, right? And remember, it just reminds me of the same type of campaign that Hillary Clinton going into the 2016 election, or that Biden, or that Kamala Harris, like these poorly attended public events on the left that they couldn't get anybody interested in going to these events, whereas Donald Trump had these huge rallies, and Pierre Poilievre is getting these huge rallies, maybe not on the same scale of Trump, but Pierre is generating like these big crowds, energetic crowds, and you know what? I think we can feel that popular energy in Pierre's events that Carney just can't draw the people. People are disinterested.
Yeah, well, and and still we hear about, like, especially in my neck of the woods, about how people are so excited about voting for this man.
Right.
I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Yeah, I just don't believe it either. I really don't.
Apparently there was. Oh wait, here. I think this is it. Let's play it.
Everyone, the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, the Right Honourable Mark Carney.
I must have missed it, but there was an awkward moment where I think he goes to shake her hand and he kind of like bypasses it somehow. I'm not gonna go dig into it, but apparently this was something that came up with the podcasters.
But yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
That's what we need.
Oh.
Because we need to find who's ready. Who's ready? Who is ready to stand up for Canada? Who is standing up, and you don't all have to stand up, but who is metaphorically standing up for Christina Adams?
Who is That's hilarious.
Who says things like that?
You don't have to. You can metaphorically stand up. You don't have to stand up.
Thank you for lending us.
That is hilarious.
Thank you so much for standing up, and Adam for coming back, because this is the most consequential election of our lifetimes. This will help define our country. And there's many ways to stand up for a country. But part of the Arkells. That's good. I like that hat. We are in Arkells territory. There's many ways. You can lend your song to one of our campaign videos. That's an example of stand up. You can put up signs. You can knock on doors. You can make phone calls. You can send in ideas.
Yeah, and it's all about, like, you can help this movement, but what are they supporting? He should be talking about what he can do for these people.
And
maybe he does. I don't know, but
do you get a sense of panic a little bit from the Liberal campaign? Just a bit. I mean, we see Carney. He's almost emulating. He's emulating Pierre Poilievre's style here. Like, he's got this sort of navy sport coat over a white button-up shirt with no tie. I mean, that's what Pierre's been wearing for the last several events. You wonder if there's a bit of panic in the ranks of the Liberals because they haven't been able to draw that many people. And even
I noticed he's wearing that weird pin again.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see what that pin actually symbolizes, right? Because
but pay attention, because as we go along in our videos in the timeline, you'll see that pin change.
Yeah. And it's almost like they're trying something to energize the campaign, but they can't do it. And we're gonna talk about this again, but he's starting to sound like he's emulating Pierre Poilievre's talking points in these public events. Like, who's gonna stand up for Canada? And he almost stopped himself when he was in his riding office. He was like, who's ready to stand up for Canada? It's like, it wasn't that what Pierre and the Conservatives are running on? And I get that sense that they're in a bit of a panic mode.
There's nothing authentic about what he says.
No.
I mean, I'd have more respect for him if he just came out and actually started telling the truth and stuff about what he really thinks about Canada and stuff. I'd have more respect for him then. But
That's
it's
right.
sort of like he's feeling out the crowd. He's trying to be a crowd pleaser,
Yeah.
and he's chameleoning, as shifting as best he can to what he thinks the people want him to be.
That's right. And do you know
You
what
know,
I just
and
do you know what I just thought of? This past week, there was an article, I think it was in the National Post, where a reporter talked about how it's alleged that Mark Carney plagiarized big chunks of his PhD thesis. And
oh yeah,
she
yeah,
and
yeah,
she
yeah.
and she went into details about that, and like in different passages, and that he didn't attribute he didn't
Well, that
cite.
did come up this week, right? Because
Yeah,
actually, I had something here on that.
and my point being
Uh,
is like it fits the trend with Carney copying other people's homework.
yeah, I don't know. I don't like people who do that, and I've known people who've done that, being in academia for a brief moment in time.
Yeah.
But the Toronto Sun actually came out with this
Oh
little bit.
yeah, Lauren
The
Gunter.
leader
Yeah,
and
I
Prime
like it.
Minister Mark Carney seems to like to take credit for things that aren't exactly his.
Yeah, exactly.
For instance, on Friday, the National Post had an exclusive story claiming that while writing his 1995 dissertation for his PhD
Yes.
at Oxford,
There it is.
Carney lifted at least 10 sections from other authors' work without giving them credit for it, without mentioning their names or putting a footnote in that says, I got this from so-and-so.
Yeah.
Now there are the liberal ads that say Mark Carney helped save Canada during the 2008-2009 global financial crisis. Well, he probably did have some part of that. But as former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who was in charge of the government at the time, said, he's listened with increasing disbelief as Carney has taken credit for things he had no part of.
That's right.
For instance, Bank of Canada governors, which is what Carney was at the time of the financial crisis, Bank of Canada governors do not do day-to-day management of the federal budget. They don't do day-to-day management of the federal government. Yet Carney seems to claim that it was his wisdom that got Canada through that crisis.
No, he's an administrator. He keeps the people in the bank, running smoothly and in line, and within, a certain guidelines and protocols. He makes sure everyone measures up to those protocols.
Yeah.
He doesn't really affect policy of a country.
That's right.
Yeah,
and
he's an administrator.
That's right. And this is a good find. Like I like Lauren Gunter. He does his videos from his like study with all his books. and Lauren Gunter is right here, like about taking credit for others' work. His thesis. He's bigged up his role at the Bank of Canada. And yeah, Harper was got to the point where he's angry enough to write a few things in the media, in the press, saying no, it was my finance minister Jim Flaherty, the late Jim Flaherty, who, and also Harper himself, that sort of negotiating the troubled waters of that crisis, right? And the Liberal Party have been talking that Carney's role up ever since the campaign started, ever since he set foot in our country.
He used to talk a lot about like how afterwards he was, the governor or the Bank of England or something along those lines, but doesn't mention anything about the fact that Liz Truss hates him.
That's right.
Doesn't think he's very capable or should be voted in as prime minister. She has gone on American TV and said that.
Yeah.
Straight out.
That's right. Yeah,
so,
like in past shows, we've had some clips from Liz Truss when Liz Truss talked to Brian Lilley, when Liz Truss talked to other media outlets talking about how she's not a fan of what
and she
Carney
literally
did.
said, she literally said Mark Carney left her holding the bag.
That's right. Yeah.
Literally, because I think she had a very short-lived prime ministership of England.
That's right.
Because of certain things, not directly, but from what I get from her, Mark Carney wasn't exactly a supporting character of her.
No.
And the things that he did, she seems to allude that the things he did are now leading to the eventual bankruptcy of England.
Yeah.
No.
The United Kingdom is in deep trouble economically, socially, demographically. So yeah.
Yeah. So first time I've actually watched his stuff.
Yeah.
I found it very interesting.
Yeah, I like him. He's a long time writer for the Sun news chain, I think, and he's been doing these videos quite well over the last for a while.
Well, him
now.
and Brian Lilly have been doing these Toronto Sun videos that talked on various aspects of Carney and their disapproval of him, really.
Yeah.
For various reasons, and I found this very educational. Look him up. I won't play the whole thing, but just thought I'd bring this in since we briefly talked about it.
Awesome.
So, anyways, let's speed along on our timeline since we're running out of time here. We have 2 items left on our actual timeline. One of them, or the second last, being this. Drum roll. Wait, where is it? Oh, here it is.
The Liberal leader was surrounded by his Toronto regional candidates, except for Paul Cheng.
This is a terrible lapse of judgment by Mr. Cheng. He has apologized.
But it's now Mark Carney's judgment that's under scrutiny for refusing to remove Cheng from the election. In an interview with Chinese language media in January, Cheng urged people to bring democracy activist and conservative rival Zhou Tai to the Chinese consulate to collect a bounty of 1 million Hong Kong dollars.
Mr. Cheng is a veteran policeman with more than a quarter century of service to his community, 28 years of defending rights in this community.
Okay, so if people didn't, people might have heard about this like in the past week or so. So just to reiterate, basically this Liberal candidate for, I forgot which riding, the Don Valley riding, I believe, at one point during a speech, I think in Chinese, had literally said, they should go collect the bounty for this rival conservative candidate, Zhou Tai, who has openly protested China and its tyrannical methods, especially with regards to Hong Kong and all that stuff. China wants him dead, or at least wants him brought to their justice. And I think last week we might have mentioned it. 2 Canadians actually, Chinese with Canadian citizenships, were executed by China.
That's right.
Despite the outcries of our Foreign Affairs Minister Jolie. So in light of all this, and this happened in January, this Liberal candidate had basically openly said, maybe jokingly, because I think I saw the clip and all that, it seemed to be a joke or something like that, but still, bring this man to the Chinese consulate so he could be deported and possibly executed, collect the bounty of $138,000, something along those lines. Very un-Canadian. I don't know about you.
An absolute bombshell of a scandal to rock the Liberal Party, right? And huge, threatening the physical safety of your rival candidate, of the Conservative Party candidate. Crazy. This is
sounds
sounds like tyrannical
interference.
Definitely.
Foreign interference of political matters of our country from China, sounds pretty illegit,
Exactly. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I think Carney's response to it was terrible. He initially sort of excused Paul Cheng's behavior, and by saying that he apologized and all this stuff, and people start to ask these questions: to what extent is Mark Carney under the influence of of the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese regime? Did he frame and word his response and his like sort of slapping the wrist of Chang initially here in this event? Was it because he's a compromised candidate? People start to ask those questions.
And we
that's
brought up
why
last
this
week.
is a huge scandal, right?
Well, we brought up last week when Pierre came out during one of those outdoors press conferences. He had actually brought up the fact that, when he was appointed as an advisor to Justin Trudeau, he had gone to China on apparently a trip, now as an advisor to the Canadian government, and went out and took a loan with a bunch of Chinese bank owners.
Yeah, the Bank of China. That's right.
To purchase a building
and
in Asia somewhere.
That's true. And before that, he was really getting Brookfield Asset Management to invest in China. And before that, he was in 2013, he was encouraging, I can't even remember what the scheme was all about, but it was again involved China and I mean, going back to 2013, like it seems like Carney has these ties or a vested interest in having good relations with China, and it raises all these red flags, all these potential conflicts of interest, right?
Because at this point, this man right now, actually, let's bring it up. The actual response that he did. Let's bring it up. Where's that? Here it is.
One of your candidates in Markham talked about turning over a conservative candidate to the Chinese consulate to receive a bounty placed on him by the Chinese Communist Party. Can you explain why you've not dropped him as a Liberal candidate?
Thank you for the question. Look, the comments were deeply offensive. This is a terrible lapse of judgment by Mr. Chang. He has apologized.
Did you notice his pin?
Oh, yeah, it's a Canada flag now, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
Now remember that pin because it will come up again.
Apologized for those comments.
Oh, yeah. And also remember the shirt he's wearing and the coat he's wearing.
He has apologized directly now to the person that he mentioned, apologized directly to him yesterday. I've spoken to Mr. Chang as well over the course of the weekend to understand his position. He is a veteran policeman. Mr. Chang is a veteran policeman with more than a quarter century of service.
So it means he should probably know better.
Yeah.
And should be held to a higher standard than the average person.
Yeah. And if Carney had any sort of morals, he would have sort of dismissed the guy right away. You're fired. Boom. But
yeah,
nope,
and
he was making excuses.
I would call Joe Tay, this guy that Paul Chang had threatened, and deeply apologized to him.
Yeah.
He has done none of that.
No, he didn't do any of that. And if the shoe, imagine the shoe had been on the other foot if it had been a conservative candidate. I mean, there would have been. I mean, the firestorm has been big enough. I mean, it was so big that they couldn't ignore it. They just had to deal with it. And the reporter, to the reporter's credit, he asked the question. Why is he continuing to run? And I mean, yeah, this is a huge scandal. This is really it looks good on the Liberals.
Well, it was disturbing enough that the mainstream media could no longer not talk about it.
They had to deal with it because it was so huge. And it speaks to all these systemic problems in the Liberal Party. The fact that the Liberal Party is really disproportionately influenced by the Chinese Communist Party. To what extent are their ties like deeper than we realize? And I think that's what people should be worried about, in my opinion. And I think the foreign interference stuff, as far as the Americans are concerned, pales in comparison to this bombshell that was dropped on the Liberal.
And he literally said, well, he's an experienced police officer in the community. It's okay. well, he apologized. No, he didn't apologize.
No.
He tried to reach out to Joe Tay, this Paul Chang, and Joe Tay would, of course, not take his calls and not accept his apology.
Yeah.
I mean, he threatened his life.
Exactly.
For God's sakes, this is like so un-Canadian.
Yeah. Yeah. It
This
goes
goes
against
beyond.
it goes against
what we
everything
believe
we
in.
stand for.
Yeah.
In our country.
To be terrorized by Red China, who like suppressing their people and everything. We're totally against that. I like to believe most Canadians are against this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Me
too.
And this is the Prime Minister of Canada who just says, no, everything's cool.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Nothing to
If you
see
guys
here.
actually love Imperial China, squashing like the common man, then vote for this guy.
Yeah.
Because he seems to think it's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, just like that cartoon we played the other day that we love. I put your house on the map and it was like Justin Trudeau's house right in the middle of China, right there. I drew a new map. You should see it. Yeah, I even put your house over here. We should put a house right in China for Carney too.
That's crazy.
My goodness.
Anyways, he defends him, and there's a response here from Poilievre, but I won't play that. But actually, the next thing I'll play is actually what happens afterwards. Like it literally, I think this was on Monday, I believe, that this happened. But after defending this Paul Chang guy,
Liberal candidate has dropped out of the federal campaign after comments he made about a former Conservative rival.
Yeah.
Paul Chang, a Liberal MP running for re-election in the Toronto area riding of Markham-Unionville, told a Chinese language newspaper, quote, "To everyone here, you can claim the $1 million Hong Kong bounty if you bring Conservative candidate Joe Tay to Toronto's Chinese consulate." Tay, who was born in Hong Kong before immigrating to Canada, is a pro-democracy activist and has a bounty on him by Hong Kong police. Chang now says he does not want to be a distraction and is standing aside. It came on the same day Liberal leader Mark Carney voiced support for the candidate.
Yeah, wow.
At least this guy had enough honor to realize that he should fall on his own sword. A lot more than what Mark Carney did.
Yeah, you wonder how much pressure they put on him to resign, or if he of his own volition he resigned. We just don't know, right?
It's all speculation. But the man did actually, either he was forced to by other members, but this, I mean, there's no way this guy actually was thinking about, the health of the campaign, like the Liberal campaign, him staying on. I'm pretty sure he realized that there was no way he could stay on.
Yeah, and this incident is it's symptomatic of what type of Liberal Party Carney inherited. I mean, like the fact that foreign interference has been an issue throughout Justin Trudeau's tenure, and Mark Carney inherited that sort of flawed political system that has these ties to China and other entities, right? And it doesn't bode well for the country if the Liberals get in again, because you'll have these guys whose loyalties lie elsewhere. And the thing about this guy, he was caught, and that's a good thing that he was caught. But what other shadowy characters are operating?
Well, apparently there's like a bunch of them, like that is being kept from us. They're not revealing.
Yeah.
Apparently there are compromise, like 13 or 12 compromise.
That's right.
Liberal candidates, and we're not
We
being
don't know
revealed
who
who
they
they are.
That's right. We don't know who they are.
No.
And
but
we
they're
should
there.
know. They're there.
We should
And
know. They're there.
yeah. And it's just enough to know that they're there. And in my mind, that's for people who are having second thoughts, that's a good reason to not vote Liberal. Oh my gosh.
And I'm Mark Carney.
Huge story. Yeah. I'm Mark Carney.
Anyways, the next on our spot, actually, there's last item on our timeline would be this.
And now by someone who's at the front lines of what is becoming a trade war between the United States and Canada, Doug Ford, who is the Premier of Ontario. Mr. Ford, thank you so much.
And big difference in a few weeks ago. He looks beaten, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks a bit tired.
Yeah.
Doug looks a bit tired. And I think he's on MSNBC here. And MSNBC loves to trot out Canadian politicians if they have bad things to say about Trump. And
Thanks for joining me. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
You told reporters last week that you and a top Canadian have prepared retaliatory tariffs for whatever President Trump announces tomorrow. Will the severity of your response depend on what you hear from President Trump?
That's correct, Ryan. First of all, I always start off every interview saying Canadians love Americans. They love the U.S. I love the U.S. I spent 20 years of my life there. But yes, we're going to retaliate. We're going to retaliate appropriately, but hard as well. As I've always said, we have the two greatest countries in the world. Let's build an AMCAN fortress. You know, President Trump ran on growing the economy, creating jobs, and that's not going to happen. It's going to hurt the American economy. I don't call it Liberation Day for Americans. I call it Termination Day, because there are people going to be laid off. Assembly lines will shut down. You can't just cut off your largest customer in the world, and that's Canada. And we're at a fever pitch right now in this country, as my American friends are just going on their daily business every day. There's 40 million Canadians that are ramped up, literally going down retail shopping aisles, looking to see what's made in Canada, what's made in the U.S. I've never seen anything like it.
And you said, sir, that you spoke to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick about what to expect for Ontario tomorrow, and that he didn't even know. What does that tell you about how the way the administration is handling all of this?
Well, I'm not too sure how the administration's handling this. Sometimes I wonder, do they really not know, or are they just blowing smoke? I think a lot of them really don't know. At least the senators and governors and Congress women and men, they aren't too sure what's going on. And to be very frank, we aren't too sure. So let's see what happens on tomorrow, April 2nd. The market's going to respond negatively. These are people's pension funds. Americans will be hurt. And that's the last thing I want to see. I want to build a strong AMCAN fortress to protect Canada and the U.S. We have the critical minerals, we have the energy, we have the potash and the uranium, and the list goes on. And there's no one else that want to sell to more than our greatest allies and friends in the entire world.
So, as much as I don't like Doug Ford, there is a lot of truth in what he's saying.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, he's right. I mean, there's going to be people who lose their jobs on both sides of the border. It's going to hurt. We don't know what the fallout is going to be yet. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. The tariffs went into effect, as far as I know, today. So I guess in the coming weeks and days, we'll see, what ends up happening, what type of job losses, what the fallout is. So I guess it's a wait and see kind of thing with this, right? And yeah.
And I mean, right now it doesn't help that Canada's in the middle of election campaign, so there's really nothing our government can do and this should have actually happened a long time ago. If a certain prime minister had been, voted out of confidence last fall, we probably wouldn't be in this situation right now, but we are.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point to make. I mean, things would have been different if Jagmeet had pulled the plug and we had a new, someone with a new 4-year mandate, and that's what the Americans are waiting for. They want to be able to, this guy right here. Oh, and just on that very score, it turns out that the popular support for the NDP is it's hit rock bottom. It's plummeted.
And they're broke.
The other day, they started off the NDP campaign. It was it looked like it was in a back alley. It was so funny. They had a bunch of people milling about and Jagmeet was wearing a T-shirt. It's almost like they couldn't even afford a proper venue, so they held it outside. And his support is just plummeted because I think like hardcore NDP supporters, even they have been really disappointed with his.
He no
constant
longer
pumping up.
reflects what the NDP was about. The NDP used to be basically the Labor Party.
It was,
you know, all about the unions, all about, you know, working for the blue collars, and you know, and this dude drives a Maserati.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
this dude wears really nice suits. You know,
Yeah. The Maserati Marxist who abandoned his labor base because, like, like rhetorically, he was always talking about like supporting working people, but in action, you know, he supported the liberal federal regime over 200 times in confidence motions, and people have just abandoned them. Like and it's going to be interesting because I think a lot of those supporters have gone to the Liberal Party. So, but that's another big story in this election is the collapse of the NDP.
Yeah. And he had so many chances to take the Liberals out, but of course he sided with the Liberals. And all this, I just want to mention this, all this because when was it, February? He finally got his pension.
Got his pension. Who got his pension?
Up.
This guy.
This guy.
This guy here. See, look at the big smile on his face. He's so happy. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Oh man.
Well, anyways, the other clips I have to show, I mean, I have both Carney and Poilievre had gone across here and there in Canada. Poilievre more so than Carney, and every opportunity they got to walk into a factory and talk to blue collar workers, both of them have done it. And I have clips on that, but we're running out of time, so I'm just going to get to the gist of it. Carney, you know, for the past 4 nights or so, both Poilievre has had a rally in 4 cities: Winnipeg, Surrey, Fredericton, and Borden, Carleton, and PEI, I believe.
Yeah.
And in each setting, he's drawn thousands of people to auditoriums, airplane hangars, and whatnot. The only thing I could really find anything rally on Carney is this clip. And this happened last night. So let me bring this up before I get into Poilievre. Here it is.
Wow, Ben, look at this amazing crowd we have gathered here in Winnipeg tonight.
So let's skip ahead because there's a few things that I didn't watch the whole thing. Okay.
Phenomenal.
There's actually a few things that surprised me about this one in particular. First of all, let's look at the size of this room and how many people are in here. There can't be more than 1,000 people in here.
No, I mean it's really telling. Like the camera shot is in tight. They've tried to make this crowd look as big as possible, but they can't hide the fact that Carney's just not getting the people right. They didn't do any panning. They're just in tight, making the crowd look really big, and it's a trick because I think it's probably been a little bit of a panic on behalf of the Liberals that they see how well Pierre Poilievre has been drawing, right? And they're trying to emulate that, but they're not doing it despite their tricks.
They are doing tricks here because this is actually Carney's wife for once. We actually get her to see her talk. So let's.
Thank you. Good evening. This is my first rally, so I'm really honored to be here.
And again, like, because Anna at Pierre's rallies has been so effective in her speeches, and they're trying to emulate that too, right?
No, exactly. Like, this is the first time I've seen her introduce Mark Carney.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard her speak ever.
Yeah.
Right here.
And already, like a few videos ago or a few podcasts ago, we did the Flag Day event, and who introduced Pierre Poilievre, Anna Poilievre. And she did a very good job.
That's
and actually, in all 4 of the rallies that we talk of, that we're going to play some highlights of after this, Anna Poilievre has consistently introduced her husband pretty much the same way, told their story about, her growing up in, immigrating from Venezuela with her family,
Mhm.
growing up in Montreal, being independent by, an early age, eventually moving to Ottawa, meeting her future husband, Pierre Poilievre, getting married, and talking about the Canadian promise, that she was able to achieve the Canadian promise.
That's right.
Just a few years before the Liberals came in power. And then, of course, afterwards, nobody she knows has been able to do that, like what she's done.
Yep.
So that's basically how she introduced her husband. And this is the first time we actually see Diana Fox, I believe is her name. Native
Yeah.
of England, from the sound of it.
Yeah.
Introduce her husband. So playing this, just played this bit just to note that. We'll skip ahead to the man himself. Oh, he's actually wearing his button, his weird WEF button. Anyways.
I first put up my hand.
And he's emulating.
Oh
Pierre
no, it's the Canadian flag.
And he's
Isn't it?
yeah, it is, and he's emulating Pierre Poilievre's style of dress, even. Like he's got the
big changes
yeah.
to help all Canadians to get ahead. And when I put my hand up, I wasn't a politician. I'm not a career politician, but I was. Yeah, I think it might be an advantage. I've got some.
Yeah, he likes harping on that, but it's not an advantage, especially
No.
when you're trying to appeal to all kinds of people you're not comfortable with. It's very obvious he's not comfortable with people at all.
That's right. He's so awkward.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I'm not going to play the rest of it because you get the sense of the size of the room. You get the sense that, he's actually now using his wife to introduce him. He's dressing like Pierre Poilievre. Note the flag, note the blue suit, the white shirt and everything. And let's switch over to Pierre.
It's
and
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he's only recently started doing this more and more and more, and it's becoming really obvious. Actually.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
let's
copying Pierre's
switch over
homework.
to. So this is basically the highlights of 4 rallies, and in each one, I want you to note like how many people.
Vous aussi, vous voulez aider? Tu veux m'aider? Tu veux aider? C'est quoi ça? C'est un. T'es gêné? C'est quoi ça?
You're shy.
He doesn't know what this thing is. He's scared of this thing. He's very succinct. He's a great patriot. My little Cruz wants. He veut le micro? Tu veux le micro? Okay, tu veux le micro. Okay, ça c'est dangereux. This is dangerous. We're giving him the microphone now. I think he's going to get addicted to it. He might end up as a politician. That would be very dangerous. Wow, great to be back in Winnipeg, here on the prairies. As a proud Alberta boy myself, as everyone in central Canada knows, you can see Winnipeg from Calgary because of our prairies. You can watch the dog run away for 3 days. Same joke here as it is in Alberta. But it is great to be back on the prairies to celebrate the great entrepreneurial spirit that we share and that we want to restore across the country. It's also great to be here with this incredible conservative team that's ready for change to put Canada first.
I recognize
hear that crowd.
Yeah, the crowd. The crowd is energized. He's really good. He's got a great stage presence. There's positivity in his message. He badmouths the Liberals quite rightly. He's quite right to do that. But there's also this positivity in his rallies, right? You get the impression that they're trying to engender some sort of hope. They're trying to showcase Pierre's family, that he's a family man, and he has a smile on his face a lot of the time.
He shows his family. He has Anna Poilievre introduce him all the time. She tells the same story, like I said, but his family is really important. And brings him on stage, brings him on the bus with him. Wants to show Canada that he's a real person, just like everyone else.
I recognize.
It's very genuine.
It is genuine, and it's good to see him do it. And I was just going to say that in the front row here, I recognize Conservative MP Raquel Dancho, who's just to the right of Pierre.
Her?
Yeah, with the brunette in the
Yeah,
front row.
okay.
She's a Manitoba MP that I follow on social media because she's
Okay.
been really vocal about gun rights and stuff, and also she's really a champion for law-abiding gun owners like hunters and sport shooters and stuff. And she's really been on that sort of on that subject, and also crime and stuff like that. So he's got it looks like he's got several of his Manitoba-based MPs right in the front here. And
the same in each and every one. Whoever's whatever city he's in, he always has the representatives up in front, and he talks about them. At the beginning of every rally, he actually I'll speed through it, but you'll notice he goes into a story. We'll play a bit of it.
Wow, great job on the song, Rachel. Common Sense Colin. Quelle belle équipe. What an incredible group. We've got Marty Morantz. He was an inflation buster.
Yeah.
I remember when Marty came to the Finance Committee for the first time, we were discussing this program. They have all these acronyms in Ottawa. And he said, it's the ISIP program. And he said, what do you think of the ISIP program? And I said, I sip Crown Royal. What do you sip? The next day, he had a beautiful Manitoba bottle of Crown Royal on my desk. What a guy.
He always has these little...
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever read the book, How to Influence People and Win Friends, or by Dale Carnegie.
I have not, but I have heard of it. Yeah.
Right. Very basic rules on, developing a relationship. It was mostly geared towards sales, of course. But, one of the rules is knowing a face to a name. So in each of the rallies that he's at, he's always referring to a face with a name.
Yes.
And he knows, and one of the other rules is to know one unique fact about the person that you're talking about.
Yeah, like a personal fact. And and it's true, and Pierre Poilievre has been so good at this, just like Trump was so good at that during his rallies, both in all of his campaigns. He was so good. His stage presence, just like Pierre's here, is really good. There's humor. There's a little bit of self-deprecating humor sometimes.
Yeah.
And yes, he has these personal connections with individuals in the crowd, whether it's one of his, Manitoba-based MPs or the people in the crowd. And Trump has been so good at that too. And I remember when we did our show when Trump was touring North Carolina after the hurricanes and stuff. And remember, Trump was in his MAGA hat, and they had the podium, and he was adjusting the microphone for the people, the residents who were coming up and speaking to the microphone. And then Trump himself you could tell that he had actually talked to the people, the regular people who had experienced this tragedy with their homes and the flooding and all that. And he knew details about what all of them had been through. He had actually been in there and talked to the people. And Pierre Poilievre is really good at that too. And he's really good at engaging with his crowds, the businesses, when he goes into different businesses and learning about them and stuff like that. It's really a hallmark of these populist campaigns, and he's doing it so well.
And it's not something that they work at. It's because, and I feel like, my opinion, but I feel like it's because he really cares about the people. I mean, these are literally his employees.
Yeah.
And you never get the sense of that. These are people who work for him.
Yeah.
And he always has some story about them. He always refers to them by name. And I know we're focusing on these things, but these things are really important.
Yeah. And they reflect
these things. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah, they exactly, like they reflect the genuine charisma that Pierre has, and you can see and just contrast that his behavior, his performance here with the absolute fake, sterile, contrived behavior from Carney, where it's just, it's almost like he's a robot, or that, there's no, you sent this sort of robotic coldness behind Carney. Like, he can't do this. Like, no matter how much they try, like you said just a few minutes ago, like the Liberals have been copying Pierre at every turn. Like, they even have the flag. They even have Carney dressed up like Pierre now. It's really odd.
But they missed the point.
But they
They're
missed the
LARPing.
point. Yeah, they're LARPing, and they don't get it because Carney can't do it. He comes across as a soulless corporate or bureaucratic robot, and you can tell.
In a way, it's. I like to say it's not his fault. He has goals. He wants to achieve them, but ultimately his goals don't line up with our country's. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, they really don't.
He wants to, my opinion, he wants to rule these massive people. He thinks he can do it as an administrator. Administrator always has his distance with the people, but that's not what a prime minister is.
And and I get the impression that as soon as if Mark Carney gets in there, as soon as he's in there, as soon as he has any sort of power, he's going to just disregard everything, about what the populace truly wants and implement his program. And it's going to go against the interests of the citizens of our country.
And that's basically why I think he comes across as soulless and everything, because the things he wants to do have no alignment with the people of Canada.
Agreed.
Agreed. So
yeah,
just want to fast forward it a couple of times. So this event, I believe, so the first one was Winnipeg. I believe this is BC.
Amazing. Hey, good to see you. Wow. Hello, beautiful British Columbia.
Yeah.
Who's ready to axe some taxes? Who's ready for homes you can actually afford?
And that's particularly important for people in Vancouver, in British Columbia.
Ready to bring our jobs back home?
Yeah.
And who's
Hear the crowd.
ready to put Canada first for a change?
Yeah.
Wow. Look at this crowd. Incredible. I'm told there are as many as 5,000 people here today.
5,000.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, they panned out. Woo.
As I was driving up,
Big
I saw
venue.
the people lined up.
Oh, he does it
in
again.
the
Watch.
rain. Have you ever had rain here before in British Columbia? It's nothing.
Watch.
You
This is
walk
the
around
pan.
in the rain for fun out here. I love being back in this place. Beautiful British
Look at the
Columbia.
rafters.
I
Yeah.
love you
Oh,
too.
wow. Awesome.
I love you too. I, of course, am an Albertan, which is that alien species that invades your province every summer for your lakes and your oceans, and every winter for your ski hills. We do spend a lot of money here, but we love British Columbia as fellow Westerners. I got,
Look at that.
Yeah. You get that
some
scale.
of my best lessons from my parents on those road trips. I remember when I was a little boy, we went camping in Penticton. So we drove all the way, road trip from Calgary. We got there and we pitched our tent. And I went to the shore, and lo and behold, there were these new things called jet skis. I'd never seen them before, but it looked thrilling. So I ran back and I told my dad he had to rent me one of these things. He went and checked. He said, it's $100. We're not paying $100 for you to buzz around on the lake, but we can rent you one of those little pedal boats. You know, the yellow things? So he rents me this little pedal boat. I go out into the middle of the lake. The rich kids come over with their jet skis and start splashing me and laughing at me. So I pedal my way back to the side of the shore, and I went to my dad in tears and told him the story. And he said, I'll make you a deal. You can get back to Calgary, and we'll get you some jobs here and there, and you're going to save up some money. And by the time you turn 16, you'll have enough to borrow our minivan, the Chevy Lumina. You remember those things? They look like a spaceship.
Yeah.
They look.
Yeah.
They're the ones that look like a
Yeah.
Star Trek shuttle, right?
Yeah, they had that really sharp triangular front. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
You can fill it up with gas. You can drive back out to the campground.
That's hilarious.
You can rent yourself space, and then you can pull the money out of your pocket that you earned, and you can rent yourself a Sea-Doo for an hour. How does that sound? In other words, very simple lesson. If you want nice things in life, you have to work for it, right?
So once again, like we said before, you said self-deprecating humorous story that relates to the people. He comes across as a real person. The formula is always the same. It's a formula, but still, he's still sincere about it. These are real stories that he's telling.
And he's connected to the place, to the land, to the people. And he spent time here. He is a Canadian. He spent all sorts of his whole life here. And as you said, the panning of the size of the venue, like everybody's crammed in there. I hadn't seen that footage until now. And another thing that I think it was Candace Malcolm or someone else commented on, like some of these venues, they're not all easy to get to. Like people have to drive to them and to
so like airplane hangars and stuff.
And that people are coming out in droves to see Pierre do these rallies, and that's a great sign if you're a conservative supporter. And again, it contrasts markedly with Carney's events that are controlled, smaller scale, and they don't want to reveal that that they're just not drawing the people. Carney does not have the popular support that Pierre Poilievre has.
So this is now on the East Coast, like a couple of days ago.
Very simple lesson. If you want nice things in life, you have to work for it, right?
So move on. Okay.
Change. Who wants change?
This is in Fredericton now. In New Brunswick on the East Coast.
We'll take the change out of your pocket. There's none left.
There's none left. Yeah. You hear the guy yell out.
They're pulling a fast one again, aren't they? After the last Liberal decade, they want you to forget that they doubled housing costs, that they drove up food prices 37% faster in Canada than in the United States with their carbon tax on the farmers and truckers who bring us the food. They want you to forget that they drove 25% of Canadians into poverty. Yes. They want you to forget the crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder, the 50,000 blessed souls that we lost to drug overdoses because of their radical liberal ideology on drugs. They want us to forget that they blocked pipelines and mines and drove hundreds of billions of dollars out of our country into the United States, making us helpless against the unjustified threats of Donald Trump. They want you to forget all of that, and the trick they're employing is replacing Justin Trudeau with his economic advisor and hand-picked successor, Mark Carney. Now, it is, as Atlantic Canadians will tell you, it might be a new face at the helm, but it's the same ship, the same Liberal ship, the same Liberal crew, the same broken down Liberal boat, the same sinking ship that's going straight down. That is not change, my friends. That is more of the disastrous status quo that Canadians want to leave behind.
Yeah.
Who's ready to get rid of those terrible tolls on the bridge?
So this is now PEI.
Who's ready to axe some taxes? Who's ready to support our fish harvesters and farmers? Who's ready to bring home our resource jobs and our economic might so that we can stand up to President Trump from a position of strength? And who's ready to put Canada first for a change?
Yeah.
Wow, what an incredible group. What a crowd. Jamie,
it's actually really good.
Like this before? Wow. When was the last time we got this many Islanders together for a political event? Are we breaking some records here? Look at this incredible conservative team. We have Natalie Jameson, Jamie Foxx, James Elward, and Logan McClellan. Give it up for the Canada First team. There they are. Look at them. You know, Jamie is a wise man. I'm not saying that he's old, I'm saying he's wise. And so, you know, when I was a young man in my political career and speaking faster than thinking, getting into a little bit of trouble, I thought I'd give Jamie a call and sit down with him in his office, seek some counsel from someone with some extra wisdom. So he brought me into his office, he sat me down, and I told him my troubles. And he said, I think I have a solution for you. And he pointed up to a fish that he had caught that is mounted on the wall. And he said, you see that fish up there? If he'd kept his mouth shut, he'd still be alive.
Good stuff.
I didn't listen to his advice, but anyway, it's great. Have a seat, relax, make yourself at home. It's great to be in Atlantic Canada. Look who we have, the great Gail Shea. Yeah, wow. Come on up here. Wow, Gail Shea. Oh my. Wasn't she a great member of Parliament and minister for our Prince Edward Island? Wow. Wow, isn't she amazing? What a legend. And are you still busy these days? You've got your own little farm operation, don't you? What are you growing there? Blueberries. Well, they're going to the States. Are you sure about that?
So yeah, wanted to play that part because he recognized an older minister of Parliament that represented PEI before, and you know, once again, connects with the people, knows the people and their history.
Yeah.
Comes across as genuine, sincere.
Very
important.
He's doing everything right. I mean, one of the things that I remember when Conor McGregor recently met with Trump, Conor McGregor said to President Trump, he was like, you know, your work ethic is inspiring, you know, and that's one of the things that comes across with Trump's energy, his pace, his ability to do multiple events in the same week, like high profile events. And Pierre Poilievre he's running at the same pace. He's doing multiple events in the same week all across the country, big venues, big speaking engagements. And there is a formula, but yeah, like he's engaging with people that he knows personally in the crowd. He's obviously has personal connections and he's got a great memory for personal experiences in the crowd. He's connecting with them. He's doing everything right in this campaign, I think. And throughout, he's speaking to the core platform messages that are really important to the populace. And it's very hopeful too. These are like fun events too, right? You get the impression that people are laughing, they're having a good time, they're coming out in droves to hear the message. And he gets his digs in on the Liberals, and they're great, but it's not just a negative identity that he's fostering. He's fostering this positive national populist platform, and it's great. Like, I know I'm a partisan because I'm a fan of Pierre Poilievre, but he's running this campaign so well. They're tapping into the populist energy, and this is the way that he's going to win. If he can keep this pace up, and I think he can, he's going to win.
Like I don't believe the polls whenever I see like
I don't either.
Like all this footage.
Do you know what's very interesting? Do you know what's interesting? I was watching Candace Malcolm's show today, and she was talking with the guy that's been doing the Juno News internal polling, and this guy said something interesting about some of the polls that they were doing in the States, and that now they're doing them in Canada, and Juno News is doing that. He's doing them on behalf of Juno News, and that's the neighbor question in these polls, where the person who asked the question, because sometimes there's the phenomenon with the shy conservative, you know, it's sort of similar to the silent majority, people who would vote for a right-wing party like the Republicans in the States or the conservatives here, who don't want to divulge the fact that they are going to vote for a right-wing candidate because they just don't want to say it publicly because there's that stigma still attached in both, our culture and the culture in the States, that people don't want to really admit that maybe secretly they really like Trump, or really secretly they really like Poilievre. And so these pollsters have been asking, these people who respond, they say, well, who do you think your neighbor's going to vote for? And people are sort of more truthful when they're talking about maybe their neighbors. So when those types of questions are asked, the results have the conservatives far higher in the polls, which is very interesting, right? So it's almost like a way to gauge the unspoken assumptions amongst the electorate, right? And I think that
So it's kind of like the I'm asking for a friend meme.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great
You
way of
know,
putting it, right? Like, I'm asking for a friend. Exactly. I'm divulging without divulging. It's almost like it's like a safety net for the
I
people
see.
answering the question. So,
Well, at least
and
they're asking truthfully.
yeah, and I think that's really kind of cool, and it just sort of speaks to that overwhelming tendency for people who vote to the right side of the political spectrum at whatever level to quote hide their true leanings, and that's been the case for a long time, and I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
My point being that I think Pierre Poilievre, based on these rallies, based on some stuff like that, has a lot more support than people want to admit.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
there he is. Yeah.
There's a guy. Well,
Yeah.
I admit I do like the guy. I like how he addresses the audience. I like how he's sincere, but I also like what he's pulling for, like the policies he's pulling for,
Me too.
empowering the private sector. Removing the binds that the liberal government have put on us that prevent us from, developing our resources so that we're not weak against the Americans and all that stuff. Like it's very obvious what we need to do and what we haven't been doing and what the liberals have been getting in the way. And
That's
I don't,
right.
once again, to all our audience who are still voting for liberals, I don't understand. I really don't.
Yeah, and it was really interesting when Pierre Poilievre went on the air with Ben Mulrooney, and he did that lengthy interview. It was
Oh
something,
yeah, right.
it
That
was
was
probably
this morning, wasn't it?
yeah, it was this morning that you pulled it out, and it was like 22 minutes or something, 24 minutes. And one of the things they talked about a whole bunch of policy stuff and all that stuff. And and Ben Mulrooney asked the question about the, like the polling and who is going to vote for Pierre. And Pierre Poilievre did mention the fact that there's a lot of young people, that are going to vote conservative. And, I think that's very interesting. And I think it's true because young people who are having trouble making ends meet, having trouble getting their first home, are struggling to buy their first home because the housing market's so out of control, and they've been delayed in their just because they haven't started families and stuff like that because of the conditions.
Well, he's
They've
even bringing
had
it up. He's
like
talked to people. He literally called out, or if you're living in your mom's basement and you're still dreaming of having your own home one day. He literally said that at one point in one of his ending speeches and stuff.
Yeah, and he knows that, and these young people like have had to live in this liberal dystopia. They know what it means to live in a liberal style society, and they've had to struggle and they're dealing with it. Whereas people who are maybe 60 plus and over, like the baby boomers, let's say, are more secure and have more vested interest in voting liberal, whereas the young people in droves are going to support the conservatives because they want to change. They want to be able to have a home and have a family and have
Well,
a
those of us
yeah.
who've been watching the Americans in this last year saw the same exact thing happen.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, there was always this talk about Gen Z, the latest youth group, becoming more conservative, and it's only because of the crap that they had to live through
They've had
in the last 4 years of the Biden leftist government.
That's right,
You
and
know?
they're rejecting the programming. They're going against
Well, they're not happy.
they're not happy.
It's very easy.
And they're rebelling against leftist orthodoxy, and I think it's a really great trend, and I hope it continues here and in the United States. I really do.
I really hope so too, and I really hope that's true. And I guess we'll see. We're now what are we? We're what date is today? The 3rd, 2nd. So we have
today,
another 25 days or so to go.
Yeah. So we still have some time left in the campaign, even though it's short.
Anything can happen, and I think for now, at least, Pierre seems to be doing the right things. He's attracting droves and droves of people.
Yeah,
it brings hope to me. You know, even though I live in a very left-leaning area.
Yeah,
it does bring hope to my heart. So it's nice to see.
I'm hopeful too, and I think if Pierre keeps up his pace and if he keeps doing what he's doing, and if the Liberals keep on and shooting themselves in the foot with scandal after scandal, I think the Conservatives will be in good shape. And and it's really good when Carney and his team have to take time out of their campaign to like put out these fires that keep on sprouting up everywhere, like whether it's like the Chang scandal or stuff about Brookfield or his other financial conflicts. I mean, they have
nowhere to hide.
Yeah, they haven't been able to conceal this stuff, and that's great for the Conservatives right now.
Yeah, I mean, right now people are finding it really tough, and people can easily connect the dots to see that 10, 12 years of the Liberals, it's that guy.
Yeah, exactly. And just because he's a new face doesn't mean he's still part of the liberal crew that's ruined everything. So yeah,
this guy.
Yeah, there he is. Oh man.
Anyhow, not that I want to end off with this face. Let's go back to our.
But that was a great montage, by the way, of all of Pierre's events. Awesome.
Anyhow, so we're at the end of the show. Guess anything you want to add before we close things up?
Oh, just that was great. That was great fun. It's been exciting. The campaign's in full swing. There's a lot of stuff happening every day, and just it's I hope it keeps going. I'm sure it will. I'm sure there's going to be more stuff to cover, more scandals before we hit voting day.
Yeah, we're definitely in exciting times. I constantly keep saying, I don't think we could have chosen a better time to start the show.
Yeah.
Anyhow, let's go through our usuals here. If you want to reach us on Twitter, at Hand Infinity, the blue check mark for the Common Nonsense podcast is there, and you can also talk to me there. If you want to talk to Mikerowaveable at Microwave TCN. If for some odd reason you want to watch us on YouTube, you'll have to wait a bit. The show will be uploaded within the next couple of hours. You can watch the unlive show on YouTube in a bit. And if you're already following us on Rumble, we are on our branded channel. Thanks to you folk who follow us on Rumble. And once again, thanks to everyone who watches this from Facebook and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That's great.
Yeah. So anyways, once again, I'm Weathers.
I'm Mikerowaveable. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Till next week.
See you next time. Bye-bye.